What if the real reason you have struggled to change is not weakness, not lack of discipline, but something far more hidden, something silent inside you that keeps pulling you back into the same pattern? You read the books, you repeat the affirmations, you go to the seminars, feel the fire for a moment, and swear that this time it will be different. But then, almost without noticing, you fall back into the old habits, the old doubts, the old feelings. And in those quiet hours when no one is around, you whisper to yourself, why can't I change? What's wrong with me? I want to tell you something with all the gentleness of truth. Nothing is wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not weak. What you are experiencing is the weight of a program that was written inside of you long before you had the power to choose. Bruce Lipton reminds us that before the age of 7, the subconscious is like wet clay, imprinting every voice, every belief, every vibration around us. By the time you became an adult, 95% of your life was already being directed by these unconscious patterns, which means that when you try to force change with willpower alone, you are not fighting a bad habit. You are standing against a force 1,000,000 times stronger than conscious thought. Joe Dispenza complements this truth with another layer. The brain does not just remember, it repeats. It is a record of the past, replaying the same stories, the same emotional chemistry, the same chemical storms that you thought you had left behind. Every memory rehearsed is not passive. It is alive in your body. It is why, even when you desire a new future, your nervous system keeps reliving the past. You wake up with the same emotion. You speak with the same tone. You walk with the same posture. And so, without noticing, yesterday becomes today, and today becomes tomorrow. It is like trying to install new software on a computer that still carries a hidden virus running silently in the background. You press the buttons, you load the program, you wait for change, but the old virus keeps rewriting the code beneath the surface. That is why so often you feel like you are trapped in an invisible loop, promising yourself change, but falling back into what feels unbreakable. And it hurts. It hurts deep, because you know in your heart you are meant for more. Here is the reason we are here together today. There is another way, a way that does not fight against the subconscious like an enemy, but embraces its power as an ally. A way that uses what I call quantum memory, the ability of the mind and body to rehearse, overwrite, and transform programs that once seemed untouchable. It is not about forcing, it is about rehearsing. It is not about willpower, it is about coherence. Between thought and emotion, between mind and heart, between the story of the past and the possibility of the future. In this journey we begin today, I will show you how to recognize the invisible prison of your subconscious programs, how your very cells carry the memory of belief, why quick bursts of motivation often betray you, how true coherence is born in the heart, and how to rehearse a new future until it becomes your present reality. And as we move, layer by layer, into these truths, I want you to remember something. Your mind is not your prison, it is clay, and every coherent thought, every elevated emotion, every conscious rehearsal reshapes it. So stay with me until the end, because once you understand how quantum memory works, you will no longer look at your thoughts in the same way. You will no longer treat your past as a weight you must carry forever. Instead, you will begin to see your subconscious as a field ready to be rewritten, a soil waiting to be nourished, new seeds. Seeds that, when watered by your emotion and intention, grow into the life you were always meant to live. Tell me, do you feel this truth stirring inside you already? If you do, whisper it quietly to yourself. I am ready, and let's step into this together. The invisible prison of automatic programming. There is a rhythm inside your mind that repeats itself endlessly, often without your permission. Neuroscience tells us that 95% of the thoughts you will think today are the same ones you thought yesterday, and tomorrow, if nothing changes, you will think them again. This is not a failure of intelligence, nor a punishment. It is the way the brain seeks safety, by repeating what it already knows. But the hidden cost of this repetition is that your potential becomes trapped inside a loop where new possibilities struggle to enter because the mind is busy replaying the familiar. This is why so many people feel that heavy frustration. They know what to do, they read about new paths, they even make promises to themselves. But when life unfolds, it is as if something stronger pulls them back into the same old behavior. Bruce Lipton calls it the dominance of the subconscious, a force 1,000,000 times stronger than conscious will. This is the hidden error, thinking that discipline alone can conquer a system that is wired to survive through automatic repetition. It is not a lack of strength, it is the nature of the program. And here lies a truth that can surprise you. Your personality itself is not fixed. What you call me is in many ways a constellation of repetitive neural circuits that have been rehearsed rehearsed so many times they feel permanent. But they are not permanent, they are patterns, circuits of memory, and any pattern can be dismantled when awareness is brought into it. This means you are not condemned to remain the same. The self you carry today is not the final version of who you are. In daily life, these hidden programs reveal themselves in the smallest gestures, the tone you use when you speak to yourself in silence, the way your body bends when you walk into a room, the sigh you release without even noticing when something does not go your way. These micro-patterns are not random. They are signals. They are the subconscious showing its hand, reminding you that the old code is still running the show. Most people ignore these signals, but when you begin to notice them, you start to see the strings. It is as if you are a puppet, pulled not by visible hands, but by invisible threads tied long ago when you were a child, absorbing the beliefs of others. Each doubt, each fear, each "you cannot" whispered into your early years tied one more string. And now, as an adult, you may feel those strings tugging at you when you try to rise, when you try to change, when you try to step into a new version of yourself. But remember, the strings are not chains, they are patterns. They are memory, and memory can be rewritten. This is why awareness matters so deep. When you begin to see the puppet string, you are no longer the puppet. You are the observer, the one who can untie, the one who can choose again. And perhaps you have felt this before, a moment when you suddenly noticed yourself mid-thought or mid-action, realizing, I have been here before. I have repeated this 1,000 times. That moment is not failure. That moment is the crack in the prison wall. It is your consciousness reminding you that the loop can be interrupted. And from that interruption, a new pattern can be born. Tell me, does this sound familiar? That quiet recognition that something has been steering your life without your full permission. If so, then you are already awakening from the invisible prison. And this awakening is the first step toward rewriting your mind, not as a battlefield, but as a living canvas where new circuits, new feelings, and new future can finally take shape. Quantum memory, how cells store your past. Your body is not just flesh and bone, it is memory. Every cell within you carries the whispers of your past, storing the echoes of experiences that have shaped not only your mind, but the very chemistry of your being. Bruce Lipton teaches us that our beliefs act like biochemical switches, signals that tell our gene whether to open toward growth or to shut down in defense. This means that what you believe is not just an abstract thought. It is a command delivered to the deepest fabric of your biology. Many of us have lived under the misconception that DNA is a rigid blueprint, that our lives are predestined by the code inherited from our parents. But the truth revealed by epigenetics is liberating. Genes are not dictators. They are responsive instruments. They wait for the conductor of perception. They shift according to the environment we create inside and around us, which means that when your perception changes, your biology listens. When you shift your inner world, your very cells shift their song. Yet the opposite is also true. Stress hormones, when chronic, become jailers of possibility. They freeze your body in survival mode, halting growth, halting repair, halting the natural flow of life. It is as if your future becomes trapped in the chemistry of your past, each day repeating the same story because your cells are still listening to the same fearful signal. This is why prolonged grief, unhealed trauma, or the constant hum of anxiety makes it feel as though the future never arrives. The body is still rehearsing yesterday's danger, but there is hope hidden in this very truth, because if your cells respond to stress, they can also respond to peace. If they contract under fear, they can expand under gratitude, under love, under elevated states of coherence. This is where the subtle power of environment becomes medicine. The music you allow into your home, the quality of light that fills your morning, the words you speak into your heart, the presence of people who either drain or uplift your spirit. These are not minor details. They are micro-environments, and each one carries the power to shift the switches of your biology. Picture your cells as musicians waiting for direction. If the conductor lifts his baton in fear, the sound that emerges is chaotic, discord, filled with tension. But when the conductor raises his hands in trust, in faith, in alignment, the same musicians begin to play a symphony of harmony, repair, and expansion. The music was always within them. What changed was the signal they received, and so it is with you. Have you ever noticed how a certain song can awaken memories you thought were long buried, how a scent can suddenly transport you to another time, another emotion. This is not just nostalgia. This is cellular memory at work, revealing how deeply the past is woven into the present moment. Yet the same mechanism that recalls the past can be used to shape the future. By choosing which signals you allow to conduct your inner orchestra, you begin to rewrite the very melody of your life. Your cells are listening. Every thought, every emotion, every environment you create is a baton raised before the orchestra of your being. And when you choose coherence, when you choose love over fear, gratitude over despair, presence over autopilot, the music that rises is no longer yesterday's echo. It is the sound of a future taking form within you. The dopamine trap. Why quick motivation backfires. There is a cycle many of us know too well. You attend a seminar, you watch a video, you read a book that lights something inside. In that moment, you feel unstoppable, as though your life is about to turn a corner you had been waiting for all along. But days later, the fire fades, the momentum slips, and you find yourself back where you started, wondering why the inspiration could not last. The pain of this cycle runs deep, because each time it repeats, it feels as though hope is slipping further away. Neuroscience reveals the truth behind this experience. Dopamine, the chemical of reward, surges in moments of novelty. The brain becomes excited when something feels fresh, when it tastes of possibility. But dopamine is fleeting. It spikes, then drops. And once it fades, the old circuits reclaim their dominance. Real transformation requires something slower, deep, more enduring than a chemical high. It requires the patient layering of repetition, the weaving together of thought and elevated emotion until a new circuit becomes stronger than the old. This is why quick bursts of motivation so often collapse. The brain does not change from inspiration alone. It changes from integration. The neurons do not rewire simply because you felt uplifted for a few minutes. They rewire because you revisit the state, because you embody it again and again, because you give your nervous system a new rhythm to believe in. Inspiration opens the door, but it is only through rehearsal that you walk through it. Consider this. A farmer does not throw seeds into dry soil and expect to harvest the next morning. He nourishes the ground, waters it daily, returns with patience, and tends the field even when nothing seems to be happening. And then, in time, the unseen becomes visible. So too with the brain. The quick spike of motivation is like coffee. It jolts, it excites, but it fades. True change is like nourishing the soil, slowly, consistently, until the ground itself transforms. Perhaps you have felt the exhaustion of chasing highs that vanish. You attend the workshop, you feel lifted. You promise yourself it will last, but soon enough the old patterns reclaim. This cycle is not proof that you cannot change. It is proof that change requires a different kind of nourishment, one that is steady, one that is coherent, one that teaches the body to recognize the new state as familiar rather than foreign. And when you shift into this slower rhythm, something beautiful occurs. The bursts of excitement are replaced by something deep, a quiet confidence, a stable presence, a knowing that grows like roots beneath the surface. You no longer chase inspiration. You become the environment in which transformation naturally unfolds. In this way, the dopamine trap becomes a teacher. It shows us that what is quick and dazzling cannot sustain it. What sustains is what is repeated with feeling, what is honored with presence, what is rehearsed until it becomes second nature. That is how the brain truly changes, not by chasing sparks, but by tending the fire until it becomes steady light. The silent saboteur, emotional coherence versus mental willpower. There is a quiet conflict that unfolds within many of us. On the surface, the mind declares one thing: I am abundant, I am healed, I am loved. Yet beneath those words, the body trembles with the vibration of doubt, of fear, of lack. And so the affirmation becomes fragile, almost hollow, because while the mind is speaking one language, the heart is whispering another. The result is inner resistance. The thought moves forward, but the emotion pulls it back. This is why so often affirmations feel powerless. It is not that they are untrue, it is that the body has not yet agreed with them. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the subconscious is shaped through emotion, not repetition of empty words, which means you cannot simply speak abundance while vibrating scarcity and expect transformation to hold. The subconscious listens to what you feel more than to what you say. Science itself confirms this deeper wisdom. The electromagnetic field of the heart is 60 times stronger than that of the brain. This means that coherence, true alignment between thought and reality comes not from willpower, but from emotion. First, when the heart and mind begin to resonate in harmony, the subconscious does not resist. It embraces, it integrates, and suddenly, the affirmation is not just spoken, it is embodied. Think of it like seeds planted into the earth. Thoughts are seeds, but without the water of emotion, they remain dry, unable to germinate. You may scatter thousands of them, but unless they are nourished, they never become roots, never break through the soil, never grow into form. It is emotion, gratitude, love, presence that waters the seed until it becomes alive. This is why you may have felt the exhaustion of declaring positive statements while still sensing the emptiness of old patterns repeated. It was not failure, it was the absence of coherence. It was the body waiting to feel what the mind was insisting upon. Once the body feels, once the emotion matches the vision, change stops being a battle. It begins to flow. Imagine the subtle shift that occurs when you pause and let gratitude flood your chest before speaking a new belief, or when your breathing slows, and with each exhale, the body begins to relax into safety, allowing the new idea to be received rather than resisted. These are not mechanical techniques. They are invitations into coherence. They are ways of reminding your entire being that the new story is not a command. It is a natural state you are allowing yourself to return to. And when coherence is present, transformation does not feel forced. It feels inevitable. The silent saboteur of contradiction dissolves, and in its place rises an inner agreement, a harmony between mind and heart that carries more power than effort ever could. What was once resistance becomes resonance, and what was once a dream becomes a lived reality, rehearsing the future until it becomes the present. There is a particular kind of waiting that drains the soul. It is the waiting for change to finally arrive, as if transformation were a train scheduled to come at some unknown hour. If only you could be patient enough. Many people spend years in this posture of longing, eyes fixed on the horizon, hearts heavy with the hope that someday, somehow, life will deliver them the future they have been dreaming, and yet each day repeats the same, because the future never truly arrives when the body is still rehearsing the chemistry of the past. Joe Dispenza reminds us that mental rehearsal carries extraordinary power. When the mind and body imagine with feeling, the brain wires as though the event has already occurred. In other words, the nervous system does not distinguish between what is physically real and what is vividly rehearsed with emotion. This is the essence of quantum memory. It does not archive only what has happened. It imprints whatever is consistently rehearsed with coherence. Your future is not waiting to arrive. It is waiting to be rehearsed into existence. This truth can be startling. It breaks the common expectation that change must come from the outside, that you must wait for circumstances to shift before you can feel different. In reality, the opposite is true. When you rehearse the state of being you desire with enough repetition and emotional intensity, the body begins to experience it as the present. And once the body believes, the subconscious follows. The future becomes encoded as memory, and life bends to match. Consider how a dancer trains. At first, every movement feels foreign, mechanic forced. But with rehearsal, the body begins to remember. It no longer needs conscious effort. The dance becomes second nature, flowing as if it has always been there. The same is true of transformation. At first, the new state feels unfamiliar, like a costume you are trying on. But with repeated rehearsal, with emotion woven into the practice, it ceases to be something you are striving for and becomes who you. There is a way to approach this rehearsal that deepens its effect. First, recall a scene from the past that once carried limitation, a memory where you felt small, blocked, unworthy. Then, instead of replaying it with the same old chemistry, introduce a new elevated emotion, gratitude, love, freedom. Let that emotion flood the memory until the scene itself begins to shift in your body's perception. And then, from this state, visualize the future you long, not as distant, but as if it is already here, overlaying the old memory with a new imprint. This is not fantasy. It is the deliberate rewriting of memory through coherence. What begins as practice soon becomes presence. What feels like imagination becomes biology. Your cells respond. Your subconscious updates its code. And the life you once thought you were waiting for is no longer a dream hovering in tomorrow. It is a state embodied today. This is why rehearsing the future is not wasted effort. It is sacred work. Each repetition is a brushstroke, painting a new landscape inside your mind. Each elevated emotion is water softening the clay of the subconscious, shaping it into a new form. And as you repeat this dance of thought and feeling, your body begins to walk in harmony with a reality it once believed was impossible. The future ceases to be distant. It becomes the present you are living, breath by breath, the hidden power of quantum memory. As we arrive here, let us gather the threads of everything we have walked through together. At the beginning, it may have seemed that your mind was a prison, repeating old thoughts, replaying old emotions, dragging yesterday into today, and calling life. But what you now see is that the subconscious is not your enemy. It is a survival program, loyal to what it once believed was necessary to protect you. It does not resist you because it wishes you harm. It resists because it was written to keep you safe. And yet, safety is not the same as freedom. What once protected can now be rewritten to allow you to expand. Bruce Lipton reminds us that your cells respond instantly when perception shifts. They do not delay. They do not wait years to adjust. In the very moment your perception changes, your biology changes with. This is why transformation is not only mental, it is cellular. When your perception of life alters, your very chemistry reorients. The body begins to heal, to grow, to express potentials that had been silenced by old beliefs. Joe Dispenza complements this truth by showing us the role of coherence. When thought and emotion align, the brain ceases to live as a record of the past and begins to wire for the future. This is the essence of quantum memory. It does not merely archive events. It responds to what is rehearsed with feeling. What you embody consistently becomes the code your subconscious accepts as true. And when the subconscious accepts, reality bends. So your brain is not a cage of repetition. It is clay, soft, impressionable, ready to be reshaped by the hands of awareness, by the waters of emotion, by the fire of intention. Every time you pair a new thought with a new feeling, you are reshaping the clay. Every time you rehearse a future state with coherence, you are sculpting a new form. Think of an orchestra. For years, your subconscious may have played the same song, each instrument locked in the memory of the past. But with each rehearsal of elevated thought and emotion, you are teaching the orchestra a new melody. At first, it may sound fragile, uncertain, yet the more it is practiced, the more the instruments begin to align, until finally, harmony emerges. The old symphony dissolves, and the new one becomes the default. This is what it means to reprogram your brain, not by force, but by teaching your inner orchestra to play a different song until it becomes the only song it knows. And so the hidden power of quantum memory is revealed. It is not about waiting for the future to arrive. It is about rehearsing it into existence, until your cell, your subconscious, your very being knows no difference between what was once imagined and what is now lived. This is not a promise of sudden miracle. It is the sacred truth that change is already within you, waiting for your coherence to bring it to light. So let us close with this knowing. You are not trapped. You are not broken. You are clay, reshaping with each thought you choose to pair with a feeling of truth. You are an orchestra, learning to play a new song of coherence. You are already becoming who you were meant to be. Whisper it within yourself, softly but firmly, so your body can feel it. I am alive. I am free. I am already becoming who I was meant to be. And as this sinks into you, remember, your future is not ahead of you. It is within you, waiting to be rehearsed until it becomes the present you live.